Okay, welcome to everyone who is here. It is great to see you or hear you. Happy Saturday. Go Eagles. Just throwing that out there. We are officially calling this meeting to order now at 10:04. As part of our incorporation, PEAC is required to inform our members and the general public about our activities and our basic financial health. And that's why we're here today, for everyone to hear about PEAC and also to learn a little bit, at least one thing, hopefully. So let's start with PEAC's mission. And just to make sure that that is always our North Star. That's where we're always focused. PEAC promotes education that includes all learners through collaboration with families, people with disabilities, schools, colleges, universities, and other stakeholders to create successful, inclusive classrooms. All of this information is in our bylaws, and that is available to you upon request. Membership is based on an individual who participates in at least 2 PEAC activities in a year. On this call, we have board members, we have members at large, we have supporters, and we have some first-time participants who we hope will become members. So you only need one more activity to do so.
Linda, I'm sorry, it kind of sounds like you're in a bubble.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
you were doing good and then it kind of faded back into that bubble again. So I hate to, but I know usually your speaker is usually very clear. So that's why I wanted to.
yeah, I think it's the headset, which means I have to get another one. I'm sorry that I found out now. Is it clear now? Is it still in the bubble?
It's kind of like a tunnel.
Go ahead, like a tunnel, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tunnel, Linda.
Oh, okay. I'm going to unplug it. Can you hear me?
Much better.
Is that much better?
Yeah.
All right. So now the warning is, if you hear all the other things around me, you know that it's truly live. All right. So what we need to do first is we need to take attendance, and we're going to do that by the chat. So if you could just add your name in the chat, that'd be great, because that will be the way we will have attendance for this particular meeting. If you have not done so already, please add your name in the chat. And Tamia will now take the roll, and she will do that for the board members, but she will do that by having them each introduce themselves. Tamia, it is on you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Are you muted? I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So first, I would like to introduce the veteran PEAC member and ex
I can't hear
officio.
anything, Tamia. Can anyone else hear Tamia?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear.
I can hear it fine.
Tamia. Oh, no.
Okay, so I apologize if I'm screaming. I'll talk a little bit louder. First, I would like to introduce the veteran PEAC member and ex officioso member, Ms. Diane Perry. Ms. Diane is the foundation of the lighthouse that is the logo for PEAC. She is in an advisory capacity of all things. Ms. Diane?
Thank you. But I have to say, I can't take credit for that lighthouse. It was a group effort. And actually we have our artist on the call today, which when I talk later, if she's okay, I'm going to put her on the spot, and that would be Colleen Tomko. But yes, thank you for having me.
Ms. Anne Marie, if you're on the call.
Yep, I'm here.
What we're going to do is when I call your name, explain why you are a board member. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I am an inclusive-minded soul in every capacity. I connected with Diane Perry many years ago when I was at a different university, and she presented in one of the courses that I was teaching. And ever since then, I've really been engaged in inclusive opportunities for kids K through post-secondary. And I just believe in the cause and think it's important.
Thank you. Ms. Darcy?
Good morning, everyone. I became involved in PEAC a number of years ago, when our family, we have 3 kids, and when our family moved to this area, I really felt quite alone. My husband and I had always embraced inclusiveness, as Anne Marie said, in every area of our life. And at that point, we were heavily involved in school with 3 kids in school. And it was very lonely, and I kept searching, and I found PEAC, and it was indeed a lighthouse for us because we immediately felt at home. We met Diane and subsequently other people in the meetings. And so I'm so grateful that this organization exists. We've met wonderful people and found a home to be with other people who truly believe in inclusive lifestyle.
Thank you. Mr. Dominic?
He may not be on today.
Okay. Moving right along, Ms. Linda?
Oh, okay. I'm passionate about inclusion. I've seen it work. I know it works. I know how to make it work. And as a former teacher, I have resources and skills to share, and PEAC is the perfect place.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Marianne?
Hi, well, I've been a long time advocate for inclusion. I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm the oldest one here, but I was there when Pennhurst was closing and they were moving them into the community. So I advocated since 1980, I guess. I worked with Judith on when they were doing some inclusion, and I worked to get a student that as a professional, I'm an occupational therapist. So I was working with others to get them included. So I went back, reason I found PEAC now was I went back to get my doctorate. I felt like I just wasn't doing enough or wasn't effective enough. So I got that knowledge and I wanted to help benefit the community and make an impact. So that's why I found PEAC, and I feel like the pandemic has brought out the need for our culture change and to promote a culture that's inclusive. So it's nice to be with some like-minded people that are working towards making an inclusive community. My son has a disability that after I advocated for my clients. So then I also had a son later who also had a disability and a daughter. And and then I have my own disability. So it's been a long struggle to get people to understand inclusion. And it's nice to see a group people that do.
Thank you. Ms. Mary Beth?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you here today. I'm going to give Diane Perry the credit for including me in the PEAC outlook of everything again. I started working with Diane as some transition fairs, and she told me about PEAC and got me on board. But the reason I am part of PEAC is because I am enwrapped in transition. I'm a person with a disability who needed transition skills to work and make sure that I had all of my needs and rights met. I am a worker with students with disabilities and helping them to transition in life to make sure that they are included and have their needs met. And I am a mother of twin boys with disabilities of different levels, but of different disabilities. And I want to make sure that they are included and have everything that every other student and child have to meet. So I'm here to assist with, I'm a board member of PEAC, and I'm here to assist and make sure that we continue to outreach to all families and young adults and make sure that everyone is included and has opportunities that they didn't think they would have. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Melissa?
Hi guys, good morning. I'm really happy to be here. It's been a long week for me, some of you know. Um, I am a board member because I started having some issues with my children's IEPs and I was desperate to educate myself better, to be a better advocate for them. I have 3 boys. I have a set of twins too, and I started looking online for resources. I came across PEAC and wanted to do my best to help enact systems change. And so when they had a call for board members, I applied. And the first time I was here, I felt like I belonged in this group. I was asked my opinion. I didn't have to wait several meetings to ask questions, to be a part of. I was included right away. So I knew that our group was absolutely about their message and their mission. So I'm here at PEAC for those reasons, and I love this group.
Thank you. Ms. Nithya?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I got introduced to PEAC a couple of years ago when I moved in here through Darcy. I love our mission. I'm a parent of a child, of a young adult with disability, and I truly believe that, anyone who wants to live their best life doing whatever they want, should be given that life, and whether it is being included in everything in school or fully integrated into the community. So that's why I'm here, and a great group of people working towards inclusion.
Thank you. Mr. William?
Thank you, Tamia. Good morning, everyone. I came in a little late, but I am a part of PEAC. I gotta give also thanks to Diane, because she was the one who introduced me to PEAC. I was first, I think it was a project coordinator for one of our grants for PEAC, and so I am a person with a disability. PEAC was actually, I think, my second job. And so I'm here because I believe that inclusion for everyone is not only necessary, it is a right. And so that's why I'm a member of PEAC. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, hi everyone, my name is Tamia. The reason why I am a board member is because I wanted to pay it forward. I've been on this journey for going on 13 years, advocating for special needs because I have a son who is autistic, and I wanted to learn from others who have already been in this journey. And pretty much every day I'm learning something new. So why not join PEAC and learn some new stuff? Thank you. So now that I have introduced all of our board members, PEAC, we are interested in getting 3 new board members. So if you're interested, we invite you all to apply to be a board member. There will be more information later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamia. I appreciate it. Now we move on to the officers' reports. We have a need for a secretary and a treasurer. So in lieu of them, you got me. And first thing we have to do is look at the agenda. So this is kind of a shortened meeting, but we still need to approve this agenda. So I want to know if there's any motion to discuss or make any changes to this agenda. And if not, can I have a motion to accept?
I make the motion to accept.
I second the motion. This is William.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the motion is passed. Thank you. Treasurer's report is on the screen. We have, it's kind of small, I apologize, but we have in savings $800.03. You could tell what our interest was on that. And checking, we have $1,211.28 for a total of $2,011.31 that we currently have. Any questions? Okay. So
I wanted to ask,
go ahead.
sorry,
Go
Linda, this
Mhm.
is, Melissa. I just wanted to ask, treasurer's report?
Yeah.
Have we gotten any grants or any is there anything pending as far as like some of the grants that we've applied for? I saw the one that you sent out, and thank you for getting us the 503C designation back.
You're welcome. We have not heard from the grant that was applied for in December. We are expecting additional funding from Pennsylvania's Developmental Disabilities Council for the grant that we had in 2022. We have one more payment that's due, so we're expecting funds from that. How much they're going to approve, I don't know, so I can't say exactly, but there should be some additional funds coming in.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are there any pending that we applied for that we haven't heard back from? I saw that you sent one. Do they have a date as to when they'll reply?
No, there was no date. So that one was submitted in December. That was-
And Diane, just wanted to, isn't PEAC a subcontractor for another grant with Values into Action, and would that be bringing in some funds?
Yes, we are subcontracted with the grant for with Values in Action. I don't have the specifics to talk about that now. That's going to be on our board meeting agenda for Tuesday evening to talk more in detail about that so that I can give more detail. We technically will not be working with them until April, but that will generate funds and we will know exactly our work when they develop their action plan. And they'll share that with us. So sometime between now and March, we should know specifically what we're supposed to do. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So at this point, we can say happy birthday to PEAC because we are going to be 23 years old this year. 23, PEAC is 23. We should have cake or something if we were in person, but hopefully when we get in person, we'll do that, the latest celebration. And I will turn this over to Diane Perry, who will discuss PEAC's history.
Thank you.
Can I add something to the treasurer's report, Linda?
Sure.
No, I just wanted to say, as a side note, anyone, as part of the treasurer's report, anyone who's interested in becoming treasurer, please, I know that's later on the agenda, but please consider it. And secretary and board chair and all of it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Diane.
Okay, great. So as you can see, oh, I just put my little, yay, we're 23, my little icon up there. So let's celebrate 23 years. What a wonderful, I can't even imagine that. I'm glad to see we have at least one participant here today who can also add to the history of PEAC because Colleen Tomko has walked that walk from the very beginning as well. And before we get started, if you're okay, Colleen, if you feel like maybe adding a little bit about how we got that lighthouse and why we have that lighthouse.
Yeah. You want me to do it now?
Yeah, please, because that's the history. That's
I'm
where
not
our
fully
history
awake here.
began.
So when we were first originally meeting with Trish and getting stuff started and deciding that we wanted to become a nonprofit, We just talked about the things that we wanted to achieve and what it really felt like. So the lighthouse idea came out of our feelings that we wanted to be like this beacon of information and then be sending the message out to people and stuff. And so it kind of started like that. And then, you know, that we had a North Star that we were heading towards, which was inclusion throughout, you know, everyday lives. And the lighthouse itself kind of looks like where I go to the beach down at South Nags Head, so with the stripes across. And that's kind of how it came about. But it really had a lot of symbolism in it as far as like what we wanted to have PEAC be able to do.
Thank you, Colleen. And with that, what we have done a lot is we have held clinics across the state of Pennsylvania for over 15 years. We have assisted over hundreds of families free of charge to better understand their IEPs and to strengthen their voice at their IEP teams. And that would be families, that would also be self-advocates. They have also attended these as well and have participated as experts along with our parent consultants and other experts. Our last one was back in November 2022, and we will continue planning them, probably another one in spring of this year. We're also, PEAC has always been available to present virtually or in person workshops on areas of how you can improve inclusive education, such as inclusive ed and what you need to be doing around that, and collaborative teaming. I would say that one of the very unique opportunities that PEAC offers is that, which would be presented to students in higher education institutions. We started off with parent consultants doing that, and then as PEAC grew and we had our self-advocate network, we joined together. So we had that parent and self-advocate voice, both there sharing their journeys with future educators in the field, in all kinds of fields. So sometimes they're taking classes to be a teacher or a therapist or social worker, psychologist. So there's been many, many classrooms that we've been in many colleges and institutions across Pennsylvania as well. We have had higher education panels in the past, offering discussion around unique change in roles for the family and the students and educators as time has gone on. And we've also had an annual conference. Now, it hasn't been every year, but I still remember that very first inclusion conference. Oh, I don't even know how many years ago it was, but you know, we had that first conference because, you know, there was nothing on the eastern part of Pennsylvania. There was a lot going on in West and Pittsburgh area. You know, they had the Peel Center, which is where I currently work, but they had the Peel Center, which was not statewide. It was really just in Pittsburgh. And they had a conference every year, an inclusion conference. And what we did is we sponsored many of us to go to that conference every year because we needed to be, like everybody was saying earlier, why you wanted to be a part of PEAC. And it was because of our passion for inclusion and to be with like-minded people to continue to build that momentum. And that's what we got when we would go to those Peel conferences several years ago. So finally, we launched our own conference, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And we've tried to continue having that annually. And of course, as time has gone on, some of that has changed. Of course, COVID hit, we went virtual, you know, all kinds of different things, but we still try and bring that message. PEAC has always been that place for everybody to just come. You know, we want to offer that space for people. And that's what we're going to talk later about Trish, but that's what Trish would always say. Let's create that space for everyone just to feel comfortable and to come into and to continue to spread that message of inclusion in every aspect of our lives. So, of course, I could go on and on, but I know we don't have that much time. And I know Linda gave me only a limited amount of time, so I will stop there. And I'm happy to share anything else, if there's something I missed, let me know.
That's awesome, Diane. Thank you so much. We're going to turn it over now to Darcy, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's coming up next for PEAC. Darcy?
So, being true to our mission, these are some of the things that we have coming up. We really want to expand the parent consultant network. And the parent consultants are all, as sounds, all parents who in fact are able to assist other parents as they're going through some of the trials that happens, when you have an IEP. And we also, it's been interesting at PEAC, we do help families. We also are interested though in assisting educators to in fact be open. And that has been a real part of our initiative with the parent consultant network, as well as at our conferences. So if you are interested in becoming a parent consultant, we ask you to please complete the form and you will be invited to attend an information session. So you volunteer, we have information sessions so that you can come and learn more about what parent consultants really do. I can tell you I've done this and I really enjoy it. You get matched with someone and it's basically you're sharing, listening, sharing your experience and any knowledge you might have. So you only need to attend 1 hour session and the link is in the chat. So I'm wondering, Linda, are you going to put that in the chat? And Melissa has a question. I would love to help with parent consultant group. I had expressed an interest prior. Question was, could a board member be a parent consultant? Linda, I'm going to turn that over to you. Can you answer that question now, or do you want to have it another time?
I can answer it now. Yes, a board member can be a parent consultant.
Okay, as well, it's been very exciting over the years to see the network of young people with, IEPs, and then accordingly, as they moved into adult life, to be a vital part of PEAC. And so we do have a self-advocate network. You'll hear it referred to as SAN. These are all individuals who actually share their stories with families as well as other individuals, as well as educators, to strengthen from the perspective, the voice of inclusion. And it's really quite powerful. It continues to expand. We had at least, I know, Linda, one new young man join who had been to university, and he's a very strong advocate. So if you know someone or there's someone here at our meeting who might be interested in joining the advocacy network, again, we will have an information session, and there is a website, we'll put it in the chat, that you can find, where the meeting would be. So it's a nice combination, right? Families and doing the parent consultant network. And then we have people with lived experience who've gone through school or going through school and have IEPs and have been, at those IEP meetings and having to give their perspective and so forth. And thirdly, we are preparing for 2 big summits. Diane mentioned the conference that we do, and coming up would be these summits as kind of a form of this, where we are really going to be focused on keeping our families' bodies and minds healthy. Everybody in the family. And we thought this might be a really relevant topic for all of us, having come out of the pandemic. And of course, there are lots of things that are still with us that we're dealing with. So we'll have a keynote speaker and a few presentations on, keeping yourself and your loved ones, with disabilities and other family members healthy. The difference in this summit is it will be demonstrations. So it won't just be, presentations. We're really going to focus on giving information, but then how you do it. So we're going to be, the theme of these summits is knowledge into action and practice. We're also trying to share a technology showcase to show items that can be made or used that make all of our lives easier. The first summit, put it in your calendar, will be on March 11th. And it's a Saturday morning from 9:30 to 12:30. And the flyer is found, we have a link for it, but right now Linda's got it up on the screen for us. So please put that in your calendar and we hope to see you all there. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Gerry Arango.
Who, me? Good morning.
Good morning.
So nice to see everyone. Some people I know, some new names. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Well, again, good morning. My name is Gerry Arango, and I'm so honored to be here. As I look out into this virtual audience, I see so many of the people I've worked with, known, befriended, giants in this journey, giants on the journey. And so thank you for inviting me to be the keynote today. So a little bit about me. First of all, if you notice, I am amused by the fact that when I make an emoji meme thing, it really does look like me. So my sister and I have decided we do look a little bit like cartoons. So that's me. I am a couple of things that bring me great pride. I am a mother and a grandmother. This is my daughter, Courtney, and her daughter, Viviana. Courtney is fresh out of the military. She is 27 going on 28. She actually left the Navy last week and is on her own journey. She and her husband and daughter, their little family, of what comes next. My son, Nicholas, who some of you have known, who, although without the beard, because it's been a while, and Nick is going on 25 and has been an inspiration for so much of my career, even though I started out as a teacher and a special education teacher before he was born. You're going to hear a bit about him as I go through. I myself was a classroom teacher starting out on the Navajo reservation back in the day, and came back to my native New York and taught in the South Bronx. I then kind of went back to school, moved to Pennsylvania to do volunteer work in a women's shelter. And I then came back and worked for a few more years as a teacher in Springfield, Delaware County. In the meantime, I started working on my doctorate as well. And they told me I have a master's and a doctorate in educational technology, instructional media, whatever they called it at the time. And I said I wanted to stay in education, although it was a business track. And they said, "You'll never get a job." But I did. I was 20 years. I'm a professor of education emerita at Holy Family University. And that has been, it was a great journey. I still teach for them online, but life demanded a little more flexibility. So here I am. I have a great love for the written and the spoken word. Oops, we have company. I'm going to admit somebody. A great passion for the written and the spoken word. And so as an academic, you do have to publish. But as a mom, I published a few things that were kind of central to our own experience. And the first one was a chapter in a book called You'll Dream New Dreams. It was called What Can I Say? Because Nick was just a few months old at the time. And we were just starting the journey. So I myself needed some thinking about this new member of our family. A few years later, I published a book called What Would Nola Do? Nola was my mom, and Nola was a champion for my son, Nick, who was one sick baby. Okay. And she just was always there in ways that a mom plus was for her, for my boy. And later on, I had a friend who suffered a traumatic brain injury and was put in a nursing home in his 50s. And I would visit him because he was a friend, the guy who had baptized my children. He was a part of life. And in visiting him, in supporting my son, and in supporting my mother, who began to manifest signs of dementia, I realized there was a lot of overlap. And my mom, as the most stoic person, but yet a person of great charm, I used to say to myself, what would Nola do? And that was the name of the book. It is out of print now, but it is going to be an audio book. So it's out there. Thanks, Diane. Finally, my newest endeavor, and I want to share this with you, and it's going to be a sort of a theme going through, is our Parallel Paths, which is a podcast. We actually developed this podcast. Linda said to me in passing that this idea that the inclusive post-secondary ed PEAC grant folk had of how do we get our message out there about life past the IEP, Linda said, you should do a podcast. And it was just like, what's a podcast? And then I found out, and our group planned, but we couldn't fund it. But later on, it was funded. And this is the exciting part. It's actually out there on all the major podcast platforms. And what it was this effort for us that we talked about, like the fact that when we talk about how are you doing, so often we talk about how our kids are doing. We don't, as family, we tend to like not think about how we're doing. And so the question was, how do we do both? How do we help our loved ones have a future, have a great path? And how do we stay strong as we do this? And how do we take care of ourselves? And that's the name of the podcast. You will hear, if you jump on, some familiar voices: Darcy, Diane, Linda, and several others. It's a new podcast, but the voices are there just telling their stories and giving us all inspiration. So that's just a little shameless self-promotion, but I'm really proud of this effort, and I'm looking forward to doing more episodes. The other thing that I am is a founding member myself of PEAC, back in the day when we all sat down at a table, and the Inclusion for All Coalition, I believe it was called at that point, was born. And what you're seeing here is a picture of Diane Bryan, who is the original director of the Institute on Disabilities, myself with a shirt I really missed because it was a great shirt, and my two little guys when they were really little. And on the far left is Trish Cregan, who you will hear about, who you probably know about, who you've maybe been inspired by, who was a founding member and a great friend. Little heart up there, y'all. So here we are. Now, this idea, I keep thinking about life as this parallel path. And this is my husband and me. These other pictures are my husband and myself standing around in Western Pennsylvania. We were in Jim Thorpe, we were in Pittsburgh. My husband said, you should get off the train tracks. And I said, wait, let me take a picture. And so a couple of different images, we played with a couple different images for what that path looks like, okay? Because a typical path, I kind of look at the ones more in the middle, it may eventually split. Our children grow up and leave, or they find work, they find love. They start toward whatever their own lives are starting to look like. And so our paths, like in these pictures, separate, at least for now. The path of a family member of a person with disability, may do this too, may do it later, may not do it quite the same, but we picked sort of this track. And we figured, I loved the idea that the track goes off in the distance. We're not sure where it's going, but we are together. And while my daughter's path might look a little more like the one in the middle where we do go off together, there's a separation. And so I still play around with this idea, but I think of Nick's path and perhaps your own as the one we use in the podcast up in the left, because we don't know quite where that path is going, but we are together on it. And there's no right path, you know. The best you do is you try to get on the path that takes you where you're hoping to arrive, even though, like me, you may have to get a transfer at certain points. There's all different theories out there. I used to teach a course on family, and it was really geared to student teachers I needed to have them realize that we exist, you know, and that we have questions and that we have knowledge. And there were all kinds of ways to introduce that idea. Some like life stages, parenting stages, the family life cycle, all of these are informative to families. Some are, you know, geared to the typical part of all of us. You know, you see ourselves as emerging and beginning our families. Being families are in the childbearing years. And some of us are going through these simultaneously. I've got a teenager and I've got a school-age child. And now in my life, I'm looking at the launching and late middle-age empty nest piece. And perhaps you see yourself in one or more of these, but it's a rather linear path. And so I still was looking for one that spoke to me now and in my life, and perhaps in yours as well. And so, because this is kind of you and me on a path, supporting, loving, and working with our loved one with a disability as we go off into wherever we are going. Because, you know, and let me know if I forgot anything, that all parents have many roles in their kids' lives, but some of these roles are added on. Some of these roles are made a bit more dramatic, complicated. And then we have this last one where we have other kids and they don't have a disability. So did I forget any other roles? Did I leave out any roles that you may feel this is part of it too? Anything you'd like to add?
Technology expert.
Oh, yeah. Technology expert. Yeah, under the guise of everything, case manager, teacher, tutor. I know you're techie, Colleen. So Sean really benefited from a lot of AAC, communication devices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else I forgot? Because we have a lot of roles, just as parents, just as family.
Something around sexuality, health, you know, teacher or something around that. I think that's important. We don't always like to talk about that, but I think that's needs to somehow be on there, because sometimes some of our children might need some help in that area and navigating that path.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks. Thank
There's
you.
quite a few suggestions in the chat: mediator, referee, counselor, lawyer.
Lawyer. Yeah.
Diplomat is what Kathy said.
There are not enough bullets for all the roles, are there? You know? Well, thank you.
Kristen is a legal expert in IDEA and ADA.
That's the inclusion and transition specialist piece, you know? And so, yeah.
We're students still learning, but we get on the job training.
True. We are, we are constantly learning as well. So thanks. I found a model that I kind of liked from a place called impactparents.com that kind of spoke to me as a place that and I want to tell you a little bit of my story as well, because like I said, Nick is 25. So we're in places that you are getting to. We are places that you already are places that you will be. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to use these images to tell a little of our story and to talk about the places along the way, because this particular model divided it up a little differently. A stage 1 where you're in that pre-diagnosis, infanthood, preschool. And this model offers a central theme, the lost fantasy of parenthood. Stage 2, the diagnosis place, early intervention, preschool, and elementary, an essential theme of being consumed with research. Stage 3, learning as we go, early elementary into middle. I ache for my child when. Stage 4, learning as we go, middle school, high school, with a central theme of moving toward acceptance and self-assurance and finding support. Stage 5, looking back, young adulthood, and who'd have thought, okay? And plus I want to add in some of my takeaways as I tell my story, and I looked everywhere I could to find photos to tell the story. And so I'm going to elaborate a little bit about what they talk about in these stages and a little bit about how that resonated with my story. And I hope that you'll hear how it resonates with your own. Because that first parenting stage of pre-diagnosis, we had our diagnosis. Down syndrome was found in utero, at which point, and this is not political, they just said, when are you going to abort? And we said, no, we're not going to. And the feeling of this stage, as the people speak of, is that the experience of parenting is not like I thought it would be. Play groups are hard. My child's behavior is a little harder to manage. Or I expected certain behavior techniques to work, but they don't. And, this fact that I'm blaming myself, but in some ways the school's blaming Nick, blaming me. I'm kind of starting to distrust my instincts. I thought I would be better at this, and I'm having a hard time. And I'm so tired. Whoops, what's that? Excuse me a second. A second theme is the diagnosis place of early elementary, and being consumed with the research, because I think about, if I can just put a name to the problem, I can fix it all, because it's my job to fix it all. And in the back of my mind, I'd said he had Down syndrome, but now they're telling me all these other things, and it's hard to hear, because I tell my students this, sometimes we just blame ourselves. It's not fair, but we do. If I research and I learn enough, I can fix this. I can accept my child needing medication, but why is he supposed to need that? Because, that's my fault. So we're in this place of blame, but there's other pieces too, because in the middle of these places for my family, Nick was one sick child. He came home from the hospital 10 days after they sort of picked him over and said, wow, we don't think he can have a bowel movement because he's got Hirschsprung's. And he didn't, but we spent 10 days waiting for them to clear him. He had hearing issues, but it was actually okay after they checked it out. He had this is TMI, but a penile twist, and he had to have, things done to his penis. And in the middle of all of this, there was a 3-year-old. And so we were thinking about our daughter as well. And one of the things that was so wonderful, and I'll always remember my husband for, is in the middle of hospital visits, back and forth, we went to the hospital because we also found out that Nick had an artery sitting on his airway that was choking him on a regular basis. So we spent a lot of time at Bryn Mawr Hospital. The 3-year-old, what about her? And so my husband instituted something we lovingly called Camp Out, where he and my daughter, both night people, would take the dining room chairs, drape a sheet over top, and put a tiny little TV under there and watch movies until all hours. And that was Camp Out. So that was a little gift that he gave that was just for her. So those little moments where, with all that was going on, we had another child as well. Nick eventually got the artery moved off his airway when he was 1.5 years old. And they said to us, and actually, he took in when my Spanish-speaking only mother-in-law was with him, and my husband and I are both at work. They took him to the wrong hospital. They thought it was child abuse because he was choking. Our neighbor said, oh, no, that child is really sick. I know that child. and they airlifted him to the hospital, but they airlifted him to the wrong hospital. And when they saw him, they said, well, we can operate on him, or we can airlift him to the right hospital. And we said, you got him, get that airway off, artery off, and he was better. So in the middle of all of these things, there was that. My takeaway is I need people. We can't go this alone. We need a vision. With all of this, what do we want? What do we hope for? There's a picture of Nick getting off the bus in kindergarten because we said we want him to go to kindergarten with the kids in the neighborhood. The school said, well, when he's doing better, we have a school for him. But when he's doing better, he can come back to our neighborhood school. And I said, well, define that and tell me how that is possible for him to be, oh yeah, he made it to a first grade reading level. Is that what you're measuring? But he's in 4th grade. Where's he going to go? Why don't we just start now? Question those experts, because you're an expert too. And so I remember really having a hard time with thinking that even though I was a teacher, someone else that I was the expert. And I was like, yeah, maybe, like I said, you already know that, but I had to learn it. Balance is key because yes, you may have other children and you may have other things going on in your life. I can tell you more about that. That's us. And that's, we were big on the JCPenney family portraits. The next phase is we were always trying to be planful, and we started the path process. And if you're not sure about paths, come talk to me afterwards. But it is and was a really great planning tool to just kind of venture out into what do we hope for and how do we get there. This is not a JCPenney portrait. This was actually taken when we all piled into one of that booth at Chuck E. Cheese. And this remains my favorite picture to this day because it was just a big smush. Anyway, we were learning as we go. And stage 3 talks about early elementary into middle school and that place that they call I ache for my child when. One of the things I ached for was the fact that they were going to send him home again because he sneezed, because of the things that he did that the other kids were doing, but for some reason he was in the crosshairs. And it was like, you know what, if he sneezed, can you give him a tissue? Because he's not sick. You're just afraid of him. And why are you afraid of him? I did not have a lot of experience with him being bullied, but I did feel that I saw the moments of being kind of passed over. And that was a really hard ache because it was like when my child is not part of things, that hurt. I ached for my child when the behaviors gave me reason to say, what can we do? Gave schools reason to say, what is he doing here? And we actually ended up, he didn't go to 5th grade because he was old enough that we said, you know what, we need a fresh start. He needs a fresh start and we're going to middle school. Bye. So our takeaways were in all of this, this child, man, he really is resilient. He got through all of the health things and he keeps going even when we're exhausted. The other takeaway, we don't just need people, we need champions. And if you ever get a chance, there's a video called Every Child Needs a Champion on YouTube. And it's beyond that person who takes the deep interest. I hope you have a champion or two on your team, or you did, or you will. The person who's just that much more interested, just that much more dedicated, because every child needs a champion. Mm-hmm. This theme is one called Learning as We Go, Middle School, High School. And a central theme where we're moving towards acceptance and self-assurance and finding support. And in this phase comes adolescence and puberty. confidence. We have been through the mill. We are continuing to go through the mill, but you know what? These problems that we're having are not about blame. They're about what to work for. They're about what to accept, about giving yourself a little pat on the back, giving your child a little pat on the back. We are in it, okay? It's about meeting those other families. And here you are at PEAC, meeting those families, knowing people who are in that boat. Your friends, perhaps, who have a child with a disability. It's another level of conversation. Always say there are people that I have to start everything with, well, once upon a time, this is what happened. And people that I can just talk to and say, yeah, here's the journey. So I'm no longer trying to fix, I'm trying to support. And what I'm also noticing is I told the school, let's stop with the remediation and let's get into compensation, because Nick's life is, we're working on it. Nick walked with his class, and then 3 years later, after working through the job discovery process, he found work. But our themes and our takeaways are and were that adolescence was tough. Okay, adolescence was tough, and there were behaviors that we were still working on, and there were new family stressors because it's real. Champions were needed because we were about to come across one of the biggest of the family stressors, and I call this stage 4.5. Because this photograph where there's a gentleman in the back in that picture, he looked a lot different a few years ago. He was diagnosed right after that picture. That's my daughter's high school graduation. He was diagnosed with a rather aggressive form of bile duct cancer. This is the last photo we took together as my daughter went off to college, because he passed 2 months later. And so that family stressor, it became just the three of us for a while. And we had the worries of transition along the way, because it's not just one thing going on. One of my takeaways in this was that my daughter, a very responsible person, loving, I look at photos of my children through the years, and I see that they are somehow or other embracing one another. And I mean that literally. I knew that I have to be really careful, because she was going to become a co-parent by her own will. That's what she wanted. And I said, you know what? That sibling, she needs a path too. She needs to find her way, and she's always going to be holding her brother's hand, but she doesn't have to take my role. So I really had to think about that and how she needed a path too. So all along the way, what we're seeing is that it's life, and it has a lot of parts. This is where we are now. And I hope, and I think about this, is who would have thought? And my takeaways are that we're resilient and that we're a work in progress, because a couple of years ago, I was so blessed to remarry and to find now I have 3 other launching into adulthood folk who are, doing all right. My daughter's back there. She, right before she left for the Navy, and I mean like 3 months before she left for the Navy, and there's Nick. And little picture of the grandchild again, just popping that in there for you. But Nick himself, resilient as he always is, he found a first job through CIS, through the agency he was working with, but the job closed during the pandemic. And so he found a new job and has been there ever since at Lowe's. He misses working with children, so now he volunteers at our church for the religious prep. And our newest endeavor is working on, I moved out of my condo mostly, and he and his best friend since first grade are living in the condo. They both work. Nick has staffing. He has remote supports, which means that our house, the condo, is chock full of cameras. And we're still kind of adjusting to that, because that's mom kind of presuming competence and and taking a leap of faith and dignity of risk and all those things that we say. But we are a work in progress. And so I don't know where you are along this path, but I'm all right. They're all right. You're going to be all right too, even when 4.5 stage comes. So I offer you a couple of thoughts on staying strong for the trip. One is to find your oxygen mask. You know how they say when you're on a plane, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you do anybody else to be sure you're okay. That could have been another name for the podcast, actually, is oxygen masks. So I'm asking you and offering you the idea, and I hope you're already there, of finding the things that bring you peace, bring you comfort, bring you energy, whether it's a manicure. And I know, Diane, if you have your fingers up, is there an Eagles manicure going on there? I'm not sure. But find those things, a big vacation, or, calling your sister, whatever brings you comfort. Because what do they say? If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. We need to take care of ourselves. Okay. Join people like PEAC who already know where you are, can offer you help for where you're going, can tell you about where they've been. You need those people you can just keep the story going with. Those people that if you have to turn the camera off on a Zoom, they understand that someone's having a meltdown and you'll be right back and you don't have to explain. Find those people, okay? They say multitasking is unreal, and because it is. The research says you cannot do 5 things at once, even though we think we can, but you can do 2. So feel free to take a high effort and a low effort. I'm going to go for a walk because that's good for me, but I got a couple calls to make. I'm going to have my lunch, but because I'm in between, but I'm going to go to the park and have it because it's refreshing. Taking care of yourself. Be kinder to yourself. Pay attention to the things you want to see get better. We tend to think about the behaviors we want to see lessen, the things that we want to see, stop. But pay attention and celebrate the things that you see getting better, okay? Whether it's, wow, this new cream is making my skin look fabulous, okay? Because that's the thing we want to see increase. I'm going to use this stuff every night, all right? When I go for a run after work, I don't run, I'm a liar, but if I went for a walk after work, I do feel better. So I'm going to do that a couple more nights. I'm going to try to do that 4 nights a week, things that you want to increase that are taking care of yourself. Our house, when I visit with Nick and Daquan, it's all about playing Uno Attack, okay, which is a new game of Uno at our house where the cards shoot out at you and everybody gets a kick out of the fact that it's really random and they shoot pretty far. And so why don't we do that more often? Why don't we make that a part of our week? Or when your child is younger, that I loved story time with my kids. And what if they say, can we read another one? Say, yeah. Okay. Talk to yourself like you talk to your bestie. I lose my keys like a hobby. I lose my phone like a hobby. Okay. And when I do, especially if I have to be somewhere, there's a whole lot of swearing and muttering going on. Okay. But if my husband lost his keys, if my best friend lost her phone, would I call that person all the names I call myself in that moment? Like kind of like, no, you dope. Don't do that. Okay. Resist the urge to talk to yourself, to talk to somebody else that way. Talk to yourself like you talk to somebody you love. Be kind. Okay. I'm always going to be mad that I lose my keys. I'm always going to be mad that I lose my phone, but I don't have to take it as a chance to put myself down. Okay. A little self-care. And this is the last one that if I put it first, you'd be like, I'm fine by myself. Please don't. Ask for help, ask for support, ask for a listening ear, and take it. Okay. Accept it. And you know that someday when you're asked to give it, I hope that someone will take your advice as well, because I know you have things to share. Did I forget anything here? What else would you say about staying strong for the trip?
One thing that has helped our family, Jerry, is to celebrate. You know, and we found there was a lot to celebrate about the journey, and you know, we really have intentionally tried to do that, to celebrate the good things with all of our kids, you know, and
Mhm.
celebrate together.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because there's with all the work that we need to do and the things we need to think about, there's all these moments that can be joyful, you know? And it does take a little more effort, but it's so great and it's so energizing. Thanks, Darcy. Other thoughts? Because I'm
I
a,
was just gonna add, I just want to expand on that piece of, you know, finding your village around you, because, and those supports that you need, because, what, I forget what you were sharing earlier, and it sparked memory of when David was in school and, you know, something happened at school, or I got that email, or I got that phone call, you know, that, you know, David did this, or Dave, you know, those kinds of things, or something happened and I got really angry. 9 times out of 10, I would call Colleen Tomko and she would say, "That's great, Diane, you can tell me all that, but when you go to that meeting, you know, you can't say that." I'm like, "I know, but at least I can share it with you." So, you know, it's sharing those moments and really finding that person or that village around you that you feel comfortable with, and you know that, you know, they know exactly what, and they're going to put you right back on track, you know. And there's certain people, you know, that can put me on track. Now, there were other people I could have called for that situation, but see, I know Colleen would just put me right back on track. Other people would cry with me where I didn't need that cry.
Mhm. Yeah. And sometimes you need that and you don't, that's not the person you're going to call, or, you know, you can decide who you're going to call, you know, and, or who you're going to drink with at that point too, you know, so there's that. But, yeah, sometimes it's about that piece where somebody can talk you off the ledge in those moments.
I would also add, I like to find a hobby, like, and if you can incorporate it. So I started drawing like the parent side cartoons because of like, those were real life things that happened. I wanted to like, it was like therapy, like draw, you know, how they're leaving him behind on the bus and, you know, put that out there because I'm experiencing it. It gets it off of me and it's on paper and it's out there.
That's cool. That's cool. And I think in some way, maybe that's the podcast as well, because it was kind of like saying, you know, I have a question, and I was so fortunate to be able to get funding and support for it all. But it was like, yeah, I'm something to put out there that opens up a conversation. And then there's crochet because I found out that my church does this prayer shawl ministry, and it's a bunch of ladies with yarn. And it's just something that's just this Zen experience that I can have, you know, while I'm doing something else. And it's a place to put the energy.
Yeah, and I stuck with my, like, you could easily give up things that you enjoy, but I have my bowling night Thursday night. Diane would say, "Hey, can you do something?" "Not Thursday night." "Nope, I'm not. That's my bowling night." That was like sacred and kept it.
Yeah.
That helped me maintain my, you know, sanity.
Yeah, you have to put your sanity on the menu, you know, because like
Anne Marie adds in chat, humor and faith.
yes, yes. Because I mean, Colleen was using humor right there to sort of to put this message out there, sometimes funny, sometimes just poignant illustrations, because I saw those all through the years, Colleen, and faith and hope, I think, as well, you know. Other thoughts, because I'm ready to just kind of, I have one last little verse that I found and that thought about this journey. Parallel lines teach us the meaning of togetherness. They never meet, but they are never apart. They complement each other's existence. This is true and eternal love. Let us be happy to be someone special. Parallel line. So thank you and for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the morning. I have one last thing where I'm going to just speak a little bit about, that's another shameless promotion. Look for me on Spotify and Apple, but I'm also just briefly introducing a little bit about the Patricia J. Cregan Memorial Fund. And Linda will go into more detail because, as you probably know, Trish was a founding member, a guiding light, and one fun chick, one fabulous babe who lost her life to cancer in 2009 after a rather courageous battle. She exists with us in spirit in the Patricia J. Cregan Award for Excellence in Inclusive Education, which we have been giving out for years. I have chaired that, I think, since its inception. And what we've done through the years is to award a small honorarium, flowers, often words from the family, Trisha's family, her sisters, and a membership to PEAC and a certificate as part of saying to alternately K-12 educators and higher education folk. Each year we would go back and forth, and nominees came from PEAC members and were supported by the endorsements of people who knew that nominee. And we had a really rich process of getting to who we select each year. And so the Trish Cregan Award is, awarded annually, but we are also thinking about, and again, Linda will go into more detail, a memorial fund, which we would use to support the things, to support the granting of this award. We are sadly getting, I think, to almost to where the plaque is full. And we're going to be needing a new plaque to start for new members, new winners of the award, for the flowers, for the honorarium, for the work in the certificate. So we're looking to create a memorial fund to help with the expenses that this award, this prestigious award, because it is saying that this person who was such an advocate for inclusion lives on in that award winner. So, do consider that, and I will pass the Zoom back to you, Linda, and thank you guys for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day and your meeting.
Thank you, Gerry. We have to pause just a minute just to see if anyone else has any comments for Gerry. Gerry, I have seen such a parallel life with your life, and the way you have framed it is very touching, and I'm a little emotional over it, but I thought it was wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Does anyone else want to comment?
Thank you for inviting me. I really am honored.
We have a beautiful thank you for sharing from Nikki also in the chat.
Oh.
And Mary Beth as well. Thank you, Gerry. This was needed as a worker and a parent.
My pleasure.
Lots of kudos. Thank you for that. And thank you for leading us into talking about the Trish Cregan Memorial Fund. That is something new for PEAC. And we are expanding just the recognition of Trish into the Memorial Fund so that no matter what the financial status is for PEAC, as you see, we have our ups and downs, but no matter what that is, we will always have enough to fund the continuous work that she started. Her spirit and her vision is fully embraced in PEAC and everything that we do. And so we will fund the work done by the parents and the self-advocates with the fund, and it's just going to be an ongoing opportunity for supporters to contribute in her memory. She was passionate about inclusion, as you hear, and we need to reflect her passion and vision throughout the year, not just at one point in time. So you heard a little bit from Gerry. Diane, do you want to say anything else about Trish?
Sure. Trish was an amazing friend, colleague. She really would help me think about things for David about his transition in different ways. You know, I would just like spout out the mouth, you know, I'm like, and then she just had this art of taking what I said and, well, how about if we look at it this way? Or maybe you can try this, you know, no matter what I was saying, you know, and she would just, you know, just put me right back on track. And her work for PEAC and everything we did, I mean, I remember sitting around her kitchen table, writing the grant, writing what we think we wanted at that time, what our dreams were for PEAC, and, you know, and we wrote grants together, and, you know, it was just such a wonderful experience, and so much that she taught me in my early on in my career there too. And, you know, it hit many of us so hard, watching her go through her journey, and battling a very rare lung cancer. She was the most healthiest person you ever met. You know, Kale was her middle name. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, she was just, you know, this wonderful light for everyone. And you know, I feel her spirit so many different times with me still today. And, you know, I think developing this fund is it's a genius idea. Like, I mean, I know that we always gave this grant, but I think having a fund with her name really will seal, you know, what it is to be around inclusion for PEAC is, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You know, like this fund would be awesome that we can tap into, that we can, you know, fund various things around inclusion and continue the work that she had started with us in PEAC very early on. So, you know, I saw that Gerry on her PowerPoint also had the picture of the paper cranes, and, you know, the origami paper cranes.
Paper cranes.
And yes, and one thing, so I used to work with her at the Institute of Disabilities at Temple. I used to work with Trish there, and every new person that started there, she'd make you a paper crane. I also remember one of our activities at one of our events, PEAC events, we thought, well, let's have people make these paper cranes. I tell you, I still cannot make that for the life of me. With all the help and instructions, I could not get those foldings. I just could never do it. So she always had to make mine. And in fact, the crane that she made for me when I started at Temple still sits on my desk today at work. I still have it. It goes everywhere with me. So that I know that I have her spirit with me at all times. So I'll stop there because I could probably go on and on. But I'm glad you're doing this fund.
I just want to add about Trish really quick, because I felt so close to her in a short, like, we didn't even know her really that long, but she felt like family instantly to anybody, and always very positive. And she was like one of the first people you wanted to call, like, you know, my kid's gonna go to the prom. You know, you want to call Trish and tell her my kid's like what, like she would celebrate the things that were to be celebrated to the nth degree, and it really made you feel good. Like everything was like so positive. That's what I remember the most.
Awesome.
Aw.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I met Trish. She did the very first parent consultant meeting when I first came on board to PEAC, and that was the only time I got to meet her. Actually, that's how long ago that was. But thank you, everyone, for sharing what you know about her. And this Memorial Fund is, I think, a tribute to her, and our goal is to raise $6,000 by June 27th, which is her birthday. And so if we can do the 6,000 and have that available, that'd be awesome. So I thought that we would have the GoFundMe page set up today, but there was a little glitch. So hopefully that will be resolved, and then you will get a flyer just to inform everyone. And if you would share it out to everyone and post it everywhere, just to say that this is an ongoing fundraiser, and we will keep track of our progress as we move forward towards June. And to let you know that this will be an annual event where we will try to continually to build this memorial fund in her name and honor. Any questions? Anything anyone has? Comments?
Linda, I have a request. Diane and Colleen, you know, it would be great for people who don't know, you know, how did Trish come to this? Like, what was Trish's role, background that made, you know, brought her to inclusion and supporting families and so forth?
Trish has a sister, Timmarie, who has cerebral palsy. Diane, is that?
Yeah, Trish, yeah,
And, but I really think that even if she didn't have a sister, she was just a natural person to want to include people and kind of do it. But I think that was a big part of her background that she knew because of what Timmarie was going through. But that's her older sister too, so she grew up knowing her.
yeah.
Mhm.
Trish, I did contact the family to let them know that this was happening. And her sister Erin and Timmarie both send their enthusiasm and their love and their blessings on the project.
Marianne, you have a question?
Yeah. Is there any way like that people could donate to PEAC and earmark it to go to the GoFund? Because like if you're looking at matching funds and stuff like that, a GoFundMe isn't going to get a matching fund where a contribute to PEAC will.
That's a good point. Okay, I'll think out loud. I believe in PayPal, and that's how people contribute to PEAC through our website, through PayPal. I believe PayPal allows you to put a note in there. And if that's the case, then that would definitely be an opportunity to put the Trish Cregan Memorial Fund as part of the note. Thank you, Marianne, because that is a really good idea to do that as well. So we'll have both options.
That would be good. I don't know if other people have, you know, employment that contributes, but I have an avenue to do that.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
I'll also add that Trish's work, her professional work, was all about transition to adulthood as well. So that was her other passion, and a lot of the work she worked with, a lot of self-advocacy. She worked a lot with. Some of you are familiar with. Well, very early on was the Everyday Lives. I mean, she did have some original work through the Everyday Lives, but also through. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the. I know we have SAU one, but what's the other? Gerry.
Speaking for ourselves, that one.
Thank you. She worked with a lot of those founding members from Speaking for Ourselves as well. So that was another passion of hers and some of her work, but it was mainly around transition. And she has some written things too that we probably can dig up somewhere.
She wrote a lot of the trainings because I read through them, so I could feel her presence in rewriting to update some of the trainings.
Yep.
Excellent. Melissa, you have a question?
No, sorry. I was saying that I had previously shared, I think I want to say I emailed everybody, but I might not have. There was this thing I came across. It was a company that offers free campaigning to different nonprofit agencies. They also, okay, you got it. Okay. I can't remember the name of it, but essentially they help you with your Facebook campaign, your Instagram, your financial setup, and they do it all for free. They are funded fully by grants and donations, and they help set you up entirely. They do PayPal, and I thought it was something we should at least look into. They can do a presentation if we're willing to entertain it.
All right. If anyone wants to take that on and find out more about it and invite them for a presentation, that'd be great.
Can you put that in the chat so I know what the company is?
Yeah, let me find it. I'm having like internet connection, so it's going in and out. So I keep popping in and out with my video. I will find out, and if I don't find it before our meeting ends, I can email it to you for sure.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Can you email that to me as well, please? I stepped away this past year after the Family Empowerment Grant off the board. I had taken on a new position and starting something else. So I would appreciate having that as well. So I did not receive that information, but I still am very vested and very much love all the work PEAC does. So I still want to be involved as I can. And now it's been about a year that I've been in this position. So I am feeling a little more confident and comfortable. So.
Well, you are welcome back anytime you want, Nikki, into the board. So,
well, I'm
an open mind.
As I was ending the Family Empowerment Grant and the board, I was starting this new position, and we launched Community Connections as an LLC as well, and a 501c3. So my hands are very full. So I sort of had to step back from a few things, but now I'm kind of, I'm a little more comfortable again. So here I am, and I love this group. I agree with so many of you. This is a group that you belong, and people can appreciate your journey. They can support your journey, and an uplifting, positive, warm, non-judgmental way. So thank you all. I miss you dearly.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much. Okay, anything else? Anyone have any other questions before we move on? All right, this is our networking portion of the session where we can just chat and just talk to each other. So we have an option, and I leave it up to the group to decide. We can split into various breakout rooms to talk about specific areas in regard to age groups, infant to grade 2, transition age 3 to 5, ages 6 to 13, and then ages 14 and above, looking at those transition ages. You tell me, what would you prefer? Open up your mic, let's have a conversation. We could just talk as a whole group.
This is Nikki. I'm actually going to have to step away, but thank you so much for inviting me and for having me today. I'm going prom dress shopping with my daughter. So I
enjoy. Congratulations on that. That's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. I promised her, and I'm going to make sure I uphold that. So have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
And I have to step away as well. We are off to a lacrosse game, which got moved from 7 p.m. to 1 p.m. I don't know how they do that at Wells Fargo, but they did. So I got to go meet everybody and try not to pay twice for parking. So
oh yeah, probably because of all those Eagles fans that are going to be there.
Exactly.
I
They
suppose.
don't want you there with them.
Exactly. And I hear Deaton Watson is giving free hot dogs. So there you go.
Yeah. Where can you tell us about your parallel podcast? So where is that at?
Oh, you know what?
She posted it in the chat.
Yes,
Oh,
I
you
put it
did?
in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So someone had asked. So it is there, and I hope you'll check it out.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Thanks so much, Gerry.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I wouldn't mind us all speaking as a group, because even though my kids are younger, I still learn a lot from everyone who has kids are further along in the journey. Like Linda's kid is a little bit older than mine, but I learned so much from her journey as well. So I don't mind being in the big group, because I'm like a sponge. I need to hear what you guys have.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I was going to say maybe because now that we're shrinking down a little bit, maybe it would be nice to keep it kind of localized instead of going into breakout sessions. But what I would also like to add is to maybe ask those who have not had an opportunity to share yet, that they would like to share first. Some of the folks like Chris or Jill or Kathy or Dom. I see Dom ended up joining us too.
Yeah. Is there anyone who would rather go into a group? And it's fine if you do, because we will definitely. Okay. Well, then let me close this out for breakouts. Not an issue. And I'm going to post 2 things in the chat. One is, again, PEAC's contact information if you have questions, and also the summit flyer that will be going out widely, hopefully today. So that's there. You have the podcast there. You have some resources that were the links to various things we talked about that was in the agenda that was sent to everyone. Colleen, you may not have gotten it, so I will send that out to you. Just like the agenda and some additional links that we had talked about today. And let's just open it up. We have 2 more things to discuss for the meeting, but we can do that as a full group as well. But right now, let's just open it up to everyone to share. So let's pick a topic. Let's talk about successes. What are some of the successes that you have seen?
I won't say it's I'll say it's like we made great progress. So my son Max has high level needs. He's nonverbal, and we pushed to have him placed in his local charter school before he was transitioned into a fully autistic support school, which is a private school. So yay, that's great too. But the school was afraid to take him into the classroom. And with your help, guys, he was included in every single thing that they did. I'm learning so much from you guys that we are working very hard on making sure he's not just present even with us at home, and that we are all playing games. And his levels vary a lot from my other 2. So it's challenging at times to make sure he can participate, but we are making this great effort to ensure that we include him, which makes sure that we're setting the model for everyone else. And, you know, his charter school they were terrified to take him on. And I said, no, sir, he's starting tomorrow. He will be here. And he was.
Excellent, congratulations. And I'm actually going to turn this over to Nithya to facilitate. I don't need to do that. Nithya?
Anyone else has anything to share? Or maybe, I know some of you haven't maybe introduced yourself. Elizabeth, Jill, if you feel like sharing, Kathy. Just want to introduce.
I just wanted to say hi. I was having trouble with my technology. Hey, Colleen.
Hi, this is Jill. I'm sorry. I'm like multitasking. I've been here off and on. I wanted to join in because I was involved more intimately with PEAC way back when Trish was still alive, actually. And a lot of the work they were doing, I did the parent consultant as far as IEP clinics, so on and so forth, and the conferences. And I think I even helped, Diane, was that the one conference that we helped with?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Jill. Oh, yeah. You were a big and integral part.
Been involved and really value the work of what PEAC has been doing, continuing to do at different levels, you know, and all the different organizations that are, you know, throughout the state. You know, we all have our niche, and you have a very important niche. And so I just wanted to hear what was going on. That's why I joined in today.
So now that I can actually talk, hi, I'm Kathy Ratchia-Meyer, and I feel re-energized being here today. So it made my day, you know, and it just reminded me what other people were saying, how this has always been the group where you just feel part of everyone. And I'm excited to be here. I have a young man who's on the autism spectrum named Pierce. He's also been one of the self-advocates for PEAC as well. And I've volunteered at the IEP clinics and at the conference, and in any way I can. And I'm just looking forward to seeing everything that can continue. I also just wanted to say PEAC is unique in the way it collaborates with professionals, and there's you know, there's not a lot of this level of work out there, and we have to all work together to achieve what we want to see. So, you know, it's just a breath of fresh air in my mind. So I'm excited to be here. My challenges have been many, but having people behind me to help me and to go to when I want to scream or curse, oops, has been wonderful. And I have to join the Diane Perry bandwagon and say I wouldn't be here without Diane. My son was not included to begin with, and it was really Diane who really guided me along the way instead of shoving me. And I, you know, can't imagine where we would be if we didn't get to that point. So just glad to be here, and thanks everyone.
I didn't formally introduce myself to, I know there's people in here I don't know, but so a lot do know me. So I have two sons. One is 33 and he uses assistive technology and he has multiple disabilities. I usually don't even describe him like that, but for this group, I have to, so you get a picture of it. And they did not want him included in school. And I went to C2P2 and I took all that information and ran with it. And so like when Sean was born, I had grown up knowing people with disabilities that were fully included and they worked and went to college and then people just helped them. So I came in with a little different viewpoint that he should just be included. And I didn't realize people with disabilities weren't included. So to me, it was like backwards. And I just was like, well, he should be. Why are they telling me he has to go somewhere else? So then when I went to C2P2, I really fought. And then he went on and was fully included through school and then went to both his junior and senior prom. And then he worked on transition skills at Lehigh University, auditing classes and continuing to work on his IEP goals. And now as an adult, he goes out in the community, works part-time at a law firm, and he does volunteering at the library and the community events. And he self-directs whatever he wants to do during the week. He likes to go to the library. I figured out why, because they got some very hot librarians, but that's like
what library does he go to?
Bethlehem, he's got a shirt, I heart the Bethlehem Public Library, and which is true. So that's Sean. My next concern with him is thinking like how to get housing. I don't want him ever in a group home or in a situation where he doesn't have control. And I've been attending so many things all my life, but the housing is very elusive. Like I can't get him appropriate services now while I'm here. And if what happens to me, how is he going to be in housing and be safe and that, because he would need 24/7. But that said, I have a younger son who's autism, and he's in his own apartment and living independently. And there was a part 3-4 years ago, I thought that he would either be dead or in an institution or in jail. And we went through a process called intensive systems therapy, where we had like a team work with him. And if anyone's interested in learning about that, they can talk to me after. That was life-changing. And we went from, you know, really extreme behaviors where nobody felt safe to now he's living in his own apartment. He has a girlfriend and working with OBR to get him employed. And everything has changed around. So anyway, that's where I come from. And I'm a bit of a zealot. So if with inclusion, I won't back down, and I speak out, and I don't know. It's just, that's my background.
Thank you for sharing. Elizabeth, would you like to go?
I'm just gonna talk. Hi, how are you? My name's Elizabeth. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I've known about PEAC for a very, very, very long time. My daughter that has Down syndrome is actually going to be 25 this year. So I've known about PEAC for a very, very long time. I've come in and out, you know, I mean, different scenarios regarding PEAC, which is most recently my friend suggested for me to join. I think it was the IUP clinic that I believe that you guys had not too long ago. So I participated in that. I fully enjoyed it. Linda's wonderful. It's great because some of the faces on here I do know. Nikki that just left, I did work with Nikki a little bit over at Community Prevention Partnership advocating within Berks County. Since then, the program has shut down, unfortunately, but I have to, and I think I've shared this, and I don't know if you ever heard this, Colleen, but many, many moons ago when Jazzy was about to go into 5th grade, I'm sorry, kindergarten, she was 5, kindergarten, she, the school district kept offering me like, hey, we have this great school for Jazzy. You know what I mean? She has this, she has that. We don't have, a classroom for her. We don't have this for her, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't know at that moment really anything. It was just more like my motherly gut feeling. Like I felt like they were, holding back and fibbing a bit, So I remember one night I was so frustrated, and it was like, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I found Colleen on a website. I think it was your website, Colleen, that you have. So I sent an email and I'm like, okay, the school district, I'm not sure what to do. And they keep telling me this and they keep telling me that. And I was just like going off, I wrote her like a nice long paragraph. So whatever, I hit send and I was like, well, all right, I'll wait to hear from somebody sometime. You know what I mean? The next thing you know, I hear ding, back then you had a little ding whenever, you get a message, and it was Colleen. And she's like, oh no, reject the NORIP, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay. So right away, then I wrote an email to the school, she's like, nope, she goes, they have to take your child. That's just the way it goes. They're not supposed to send her anywhere else. They haven't tried anything, blah, 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 whatever. Colleen like gave me a wealth of knowledge. And I went in with that like wealth of knowledge that she gave me and like a couple of emails that we had, and my motherly gut feeling, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? So needless to say, within 24 hours, my school district they found a classroom for her, believe it or not. Now I'm not saying that they did the proper things to include her properly into the education curriculum, but there was a classroom. So there was like some hope there. And then from there, we worked on inclusion with them for many, many years. We worked with Patan, but we had Patan meetings, on a monthly basis, IEP meetings all the time. But honestly, if it was not for Colleen and her responding to me at my god awful hours of the night and freaking out, I don't think I would have had that oomph to even come back and say, okay, this is what we should do. It was kind of like, okay, fine. All right. So I think those were my kind of like my breakthroughs into I think that feeling is correct, and I just need to empower myself and learn more because there's a lot more out there that I'm not aware of. So then I took it from there and just, continued and grew with different knowledge. And then I am bilingual. So I figured, a lot of the Hispanic population in Berks County, if I didn't know, needless to say, they're trying to conquer the English language, then special education is a whole nother foreign language, so that was just a lot. And then I started advocating over at Greater Mental Health Alliance. And then I went to Community Partnership and I, sat on an advisory panel, task committee, local task force, a lot of different things. So I always tell Jasmine that, she was the light to all of this. And that I do, and I love what I do, and helping other families and dealing with everything because of her. And she's like, okay, you're welcome.
I always say, if I do something, then the next person has to pass it on to the next person. That's the rule.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really has been. I've loved it. You know what I mean? I still work with tons of families and, attorneys and stuff like that. So it's just doing great. Yeah. And that, like I said, Jazzy just looks at me and fully doesn't understand the whole thing. And she's just like, okay. And oh my gosh, Colleen, don't you remember I bought a desk from you?
Yes, I do.
I bought a desk from you, and Diane, I should send you a picture of it because I turned it in to an Eagles desk. I got everything. I got the.
Wait, I want to see that too.
Okay, I'll send it to you guys. Yes, and it looks so nice. My son still has it in his room.
Now you gotta take a picture of it and share it with everybody.
I will. I
great.
definitely will. Yeah, I was like, oh yes, when I saw Diane with her Eagle stuff on.
Thank
So yeah,
you for sharing.
that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And this has been great. I loved the presentation. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Dom, I know you were not here when we were introducing ourselves. So would you just say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I know most of you guys, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dominic. I live in Philadelphia. I have a son who's 5 years old. So I'm kind of in the beginning of my journey. I feel like I've been saying that now for, the last year or so, but my son just started kindergarten. So, I'm kind of at that point. And I think, Kathy's shaking her head. I've reached out to you a few times. I think I've talked to mostly everybody. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I got involved with PEAC actually through Melissa, who I met at one of the parent trainings that PEAL was putting on. It was the Family Leadership Institute last winter. She was the one that, kind of introduced me to PEAC, and then, I reached out to Linda and we spoke, and, I'm really excited to be a part of this. Yeah, so one of the things that I'm involved with right now, I'm actually one of the family advocates for the LEN program at CHOP. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically like a group of different disciplines. Wait, let me say this correctly. It's a group of professionals like medical providers. It could be psychologists, neuropsychologists, OTs, PTs, SLPs, behavioral pediatricians that are in this 1 year long fellowship at CHOP. And they also have, representatives from that are family members or self-advocates. So I'm one of the 2 family members this year, and we get together. It's a year long, class, which is awesome. I'm learning a lot about the neurodevelopmental disabilities. I actually met Diane for the first time, and I think Mary Beth, I met you guys at the disability conference this past year, which was awesome. I'm also working with, or I'm taking a course with COPA. I'm doing some SEAT training with them as well. I'm doing SEAT 2.0. So that's really exciting too. So yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to be a part of you guys. So anything I can contribute, I'm here. So that's me.
Thank you, Dom. I was a LEN trainee myself, so earlier. So that's a pretty good, awesome program. And Chris, I'm sorry, I think you were trying to unmute a couple of times. It's so hard on Zoom to say things, so please share.
Thank you, Nithya. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today, especially to see Diane. It's been a while. My family and I were beneficiaries of the PEAC program way back 15 years ago. They guided and supported us as we navigated the maze of special education. I am the parent of a 28-year-old, a 21-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and kind of a new empty nester. So thrilled to have the time to get back and to give back to the organization that helped us so much. So my oldest is Peter O'Halloran. He is a member of the Self-Advocacy Network, and he is unfortunately was not able to attend today, but I do think that he's planning on staying involved. And that was really cool that while I was busy continuing to raise his sisters, he was able to be involved in an organization without me, and able to go to professional development activities and train teachers on how to implement inclusive practices in their classrooms. That's something that I think is really important. And I've been able to see some of the feedback from people who participated in those sessions, and I know that they're very impactful. The free clinics for parents, I was a beneficiary of that. I know they're really impactful. So I'm thrilled to see that this organization continues, that it persists, that we continue to offer these programs that help people so much. And the challenges that we face today as a 20-year-old have to do with independent living. Peter lived on his own for 2 years. There was a lot of difficulty as the pandemic continued on in terms of staying connected to others. I think he became a little isolated. He lives at home with us now. He has been employed full-time since graduating high school. He had a seamless transition from school to work, which we were thrilled with. And again, I owe a lot of gratitude to PEAC for their guidance in understanding our rights and how things work. But housing, like Colleen said, for the long-term future is something that we are still trying to figure out. I'm frustrated with the DSP crisis in terms of finding folks to help support Peter, so he's not, it's not always his parents providing those supports, which we're always happy to do. But I think he needs somebody besides us, and he's expressed that. I also want to say that about 6 years ago, he and I became politically active, and that led to me working for a state representative. So I work part-time in constituent services, and we like to stay, Peter and I together, like to stay active and always advocating for inclusive education in terms of whoever the government official or elected official is, and making sure they understand the reason inclusion is so important in education and in everyday lives. And so we maybe, venture on to making sure that we have inclusive housing options in all communities. And so I think that about covers what I wanted to say. Again, thrilled to be back and to give back. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being in that political policy aspect of it and pushing things from that end. And it's so much more important as well to do that. So thank you to you and Peter for doing that work.
One thing I forgot to mention just real quick, just on my personal note also, I am a mother of 5. So my oldest is 27 and Jasmine that is 24. Ariana is 23. Natalia is 16. And my son Eli that is 13. So just wanted to share that. Proud mama first.
Yes. Thank you. Linda and Mary Beth after that. I have a few hands raised.
Anne Marie, I think, was first, so we'll go to Anne Marie first.
Oh, thanks, Linda. I have a dual role. This is about successes, right? So I come to this space because I wear inclusion in every capacity. And much like Gerry shared, although I had, in my role as an educator, had always included others, and I was an administrator and was a champion of disabilities, it wasn't until my son was born, and then subsequently after that, we adopted my daughter, and both of them have, learning differences, learning needs. And nevertheless, I'm in higher ed, and I co-coordinate our graduate program for school leaders, because I really think that school leadership needs to change and be inclusive minded and inclusion for everyone. So that's been my mantra. And some of you have actually presented in my classes that I've taught. And I might be asking some of you again this semester to step in and do a presentation. But the big thing that I want to share is I give you all of that to share with you that I piloted with a colleague a 3-part series that was last summer, was a week-long institute on inclusive practices for school leaders. And we did it for a school district in the Lancaster area, and we did it for their administrators. And it was a wow and eye-opening experience for many of them. 5 of the 7 continued on in the fall, and we continued on this journey of how do you include and what does that look like? And then since then, what I've learned in the spring, my colleague and I are finishing this series. 2 of those 5 have gone into significant roles in their district where they're actually training principals within their district on inclusive practices. And what does that look like and how do you do it? And it's not, it's not just feel nice, look nice. It's all about the if anyone knows social role valorization, which I know Darcy does and Gerry, who's not here now, but it's all about how do we include everyone, much like you said, Colleen, there's no exclusions. How do we do this? And how do we do it in an ethical and meaningful manner for them? So that's a big success for me, because I'm seeing that now there are school leaders within this district that are now asking how to do it and how they can help to leverage, their learning to help all of the other students in the school. So that's kind of exciting for me.
That's excellent. Thank you. Nithya had to leave, so I'm going to take the baton from her and just facilitate the rest of the conversation. You're getting applause and claps from Diane. Mary Beth.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is not a self-plug, although it may seem like it is one, but I want to remind everyone and encourage everyone to use the benefits of the Center for Independent Living in their area. Now, Liberty Resources, where I work, is the Center for Independent Living for people in Philadelphia, and we now coordinate Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties, because Freedom Valley, as many of you may know or may not know, was the Center for Independent Living in these areas. They had to close, and Liberty Resources was awarded the potential, the work for these counties to make sure that the independent living, conspicuously making their own choices, as we like to promote it, was continued on. A Center for Independent Living offers 5 core services: information and referral, exactly what it sounds like, helping people with information for people with disabilities of all types. Any disability, if it's a disability, we assist. You don't even need to tell us what the disability is or get into it. We help people with disabilities with information and helping them to understand how to work with and understand for themselves what having a disability is and how to communicate that to others. A lot of times I've had the young adults, because that's my specialty with transition, would say, oh no, I don't do that, or no, my mother does that. But you're the person with the disability, so I want you to understand it to your ability at your level, whatever that may be, and be able to express that. That has been so successful and eye-opening for parents and the young adults. It's fabulous. So information and referral, and again, as wonderful as Liberty Resources, aka the Center for Independent Living, is, and as much as they all do, we can't do everything alone. So referral, whereas if somebody says that they need some help with billing or help with work or help with learning certain skills, we may refer them to another agency or talk to them about another agency or another system provider out there. But it's never, oh, go to them or go to CIS or go to OVR or go here. It's let's walk together. Let's open it up together. And that's the way all CILs are. I get very passionate and get into all of it. So I might sound like, oh, we'll just call them Maribeth. I'm going to refer you out to some people too as well. But it's not like you're going to ask me and all right, I'll see you later. Don't let the door hit you. It's more, sorry to be blunt, but I mean, it's not like that. It's more, when can we schedule a follow-up, or, giving you a date to make you responsible for doing that, or the young adult or the older adult. Okay, you said that you can call, Temple Disability. When are you going to do that by? When are you going to get an answer by? I know that things sometimes take time and it may not be done, but it holds people responsible for their own services. And that puts a lot of, we look at it as, oh, I don't want to pressure them and I want them, but it gives them liability. So that's very important. So that's information and referral, peer support. As everyone has saying, and Diane has given great examples of, we all need somebody to talk to. And Gerry was really speaking to as a main frame of her services. We all need somebody to talk to. We need somebody to just talk to and shush and listen to us. Sometimes we need somebody to talk to and say, okay, well, that's the way you do it, but now let's try this and put it in a framework for us and help us that way. Sometimes we need a little bit of both. That's what the information, the peer support is. We can do peer support as workers, but I can also, and my other coworkers can also refer you to another consumer that we've worked with, that we've seen go through the journey, and pair you up with them as not as a professional, but as just somebody to talk to and say, hey, how did you do it? You know, I know you got information from Mary Beth or any one of my coworkers or Lauren or somebody, but how did you do it? How did you accept that? How did you do, you know, think about these things? How did you learn how to talk about yourself? So that's something that we offer, peer support. Skills training. When I say skills training, you think class, I'm sure. And yes, it's technically a class, but skills training is more of an information session to let people know information and how they can work with it with their ability to the best. You know, our socialization communication. A lot of people don't understand how to communicate and let people know about their disabilities and about their needs. Yes, everyone may have a label, quote unquote, but your label is applied to you in your own way. How do I get that out, and how do I express these needs that way? So that's the skill. That's what we do and help with skills training. I mean, we also have a cooking class. Are we going to teach you how to cook lobster and how to be a chef? No, but we're going to help you learn how to figure out things and do them on your own. I know that I haven't taught the cooking class, but I know that one of the part of the information that I gave to a parent and a student that I was referring to take their cooking class with their Center for Independent Living, they were saying, oh no, I can't do that because I always forget about, you know, you put that water on to boil it and I always forget about it, and then it's a big mess and this and that. Set yourself a timer. Go to the dollar store and get a simple time, something as simple as that. Oh, well, I could do that. So these are the type of things that the Center for Independent Living can offer and can help and assist with. It's not just about the skills, it's about using the skills on your level or at your disposal. Advocacy is our fourth core service, which of course I always think should be the first core service, but they're all just as important as each other. We help advocate with and for everyone with a disability. We help them advocate individually and collectively with a school or by themselves, with their parents, with their community, with their different needs and wants within the area. But we will also help them advocate collectively. I'm not giving Liberty Resources credit for it, but we do get some pat on the back for it. Curb cuts in the cities. Curb cuts are because Liberty Resources is constantly working with SEPTA to make sure that, or one of the agencies working with SEPTA to make sure that people's rights are met and that people can access the services that are available. It doesn't make a difference if SEPTA has disability services if people don't know about it, if people can't access it. So these are the things that Liberty Resources and other centers for independent living and other agencies make sure that it's known, that all of these services within the city, within the communities, and it doesn't just have to be the city, within all areas, that they can adjust and meet your needs in a way that work for you. Because let me tell you, when I say meet your needs, anybody with these needs are not the first person. Any person with a disability who has the need of accessibility or a note taker or I don't know, anything and everything, or something to help with lifting, like, you know, with eating or different services like that, or bathing and dressing, you're not the first person. Even though you feel like I'm the only one, how can I ask this? What can I do? You're not the only one, and you're definitely not the first one. So that's what I want to say about advocacy and transition services. That's my specialty with youth and young adults, but I also work with a lot of older adults because transition has been around forever, but it wasn't acknowledged until more recently. So transition services, making sure that everybody knows how to communicate for themselves and get their word out there in a way that works for them. I know I keep saying in a way that works for them, and we help them do that, but all of the services flow into each other. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go to Liberty and get peer support. I'm going to go to Liberty and get advocacy. I'm going to go to Liberty and get transition services. They all encompass each other as all of the work that we do. I may refer you to Linda and say, hey, Linda, how can we get this person this? Or what system can we work at to get this? Or Diane or Darcy or any of the people that we've worked with, not just PEAC. I may refer myself to a teacher and say, hey, how do I do this? Or have you ever had a student do this? And what are some ways that we can do this? That's what we do with the transition services. And let me say that Liberty Resources, it has a very active, very prominent, and very successful nursing home transition department to help individuals that are in nursing homes that don't necessarily need to be anymore or at all get out of them and live independently, making their own choices. It's not necessarily, independence isn't necessarily by yourself. It's being able to make the choices that are best for you. If that means having services and having somebody come in and help wash, bathe, do so you can live a life that you want, that's you making the decision that I want to wear the scarf with my black sweater today because I'm feeling upbeat. Not just, oh, well, you're going to wear the black sweater because it's a little bit chilly and damp out today, and a pair of jeans or a pair of pull-up pants because they're easier to get on and off. I'm going to make the decision for myself that I want to wear the jeans today because I'm feeling pretty good today as a person with a disability, and I may want to practice some of my OT skills or some of my, different things, and I want to feel like everybody else wearing these jeans. Or I'm sorry, I don't mean to get into example. I get carried away sometimes because I get so passionate about making sure that everybody has these rights and feels included with everything. So I just wanted to stress, not just Liberty Resources, but all centers for independent living follow these 5 core services and make sure that we incorporate them and reach out to them as well for all of the parents, which are in a big need for this, and the young adults or older adults with disabilities. Thank you
so much, Mary Beth. That was amazing. And I think that the still is the best kept secret because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have even known about the Centers for Independent Living. And so I even sought them out in my county because I had never even heard of them. Mm-hmm. If you could put the your still's information in the chat, just like the website or something, because what I did find out is that you can really go to any still in any county. And I was really going to work with yours. And then I brought this up to my still because they weren't doing too much. And then they gave me all this information about the things that they did. And I said, okay, we'll try you. So we're in the process of working with them. But your Liberty Resource Center, your newsletter is amazing. I love your newsletter. So thank you for, sharing that out. And anyone who even wants to get on the website just to get the newsletter, it is so informative and it gives so much information. I love that. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And if you want to be on my listserv, which is a group email that I am able to, that I've developed to share on the information with everybody, because it's easier than remembering, oh, Linda needs this, Darcy needs this. You can't do that with working with so many people. I just share everything. And I always say, if you don't need it, delete it. But it gives people a lot of information and it helps them think of ways that, oh, I never thought of that, or, oh, I didn't realize I could reach out to Delaware County this, or Chester County this, or this different group. It just gives them an idea and another mind frame. And of course, Liberty Resources newsletter is always included with that. So you would get that as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So that is something that everyone should look into. I think that just as a personal note, that our children as young children should have that advocacy component built into what they do typically and normally and routinely, because it is so valuable and needed, as they get older, for them to start really sharing their preferences and their interests, whereas when they're little, people tend to tell them all the time. And then as they go to older they're always geared to certain areas because this is what others think they should do. But if it's slowly building in those advocacy skills so that they can talk for themselves, and when they're older and they really need to make these decisions, that they feel more comfortable doing that. And I know that one of the key activities is for them to start voicing their opinions at the IEP meeting, and for them to attend and to be a participant. Well, those are skills, right, in order to do that. And so just building those skills little by little, I think is so valuable. Okay, so we're going on to the next item. Thank you all for sharing. We've lost a few people who really had to go for 12:30 appointments, and that's fine. But the next piece I just want to add is that we are always looking for board members. So if you ever are interested in becoming a board member, please do so. I also want to share that we have an annual report. I can share that out with everyone on the call, and all board members will have this for Tuesday evening meeting. If you want it, you can absolutely have it, but I need to share this with you. The annual report starts off with actually what Colleen talked about, the origin of the logo. And that's important because we use the logo all the time. So it starts with that. It moves into just a quick letter of thank you from me. And then some quotes from people who participated in our IEP clinics and how they found the value. And I needed a picture. So yes, this is a second grade picture from my daughter when she was in second grade. She's 22 now, but that was she was young then. Here's our financials. So this is our revenue, expenditures for last year, just for 2022. This is end of the year report. And our net assets. And thank you to our supporters for 2022. And then just a year in review. And you've heard a lot of that already. So those who didn't attend today, at least they have little snippets. It includes a link to the podcast. And then just our mission and our board of directors. And that's how we end it. So it's pretty short, but it gives an overview, a quick overview of our 2022. Are there any questions on that? Oh, anything? You are more than welcome to have it upon request. I don't think everyone will be interested in it, but just in case you are. The other thing is that there's a link for board members, an application. We are always in need of board members, but in order for a full number of board members, we need 3 more board members. So we are eager to have, if there's anyone you know who would be interested, there's a link there that's part of the agenda, that you can share out also. And again, this will be shared out to all. And the last item is it's hard to ask the question, what do you need? Because sometimes people don't know what they need. But is there anything that you heard of, or anything that you can think would draw that PEAC could help others with? Are there any things that we should have on our radar in terms of issues that we can address? Can you give us something that we could start thinking about that PEAC can help with?
Hi, it's Kathy. I was trying to find my little hand, but I didn't find it quickly enough. So one of the things that I've been hearing lately, and we have a lot of people with disabilities speaking for themselves and sharing their stories, but just for families who have kiddos who aren't able to express themselves. And when I say that, I'm not saying a kiddo that might not be able to express themselves if they had assistive technology to help them express themselves. I'm just wondering if anybody has thoughts or ideas how we could empower the individual themselves who may have just not the same ability and way to share their story, share their needs. And we certainly want to make sure our families are able to share that, but how could we really include them? I don't know that assistive technology has been fabulous for those that it's worked for, but we also have those that's even with assistive technology that doesn't give their voice. So any thoughts on that would be very, very welcome.
when Sean was younger and even in college, we would work with him ahead of time. Sometimes it was asking yes, no questions. So do you want to, you know, take this class? Do you want to do this activity or whatever? And sometimes it was, you know, well, what are the things you want to say? And he'd say, friends, eat. He'd just say 2 words or whatever. And then we'd say, oh, you want to eat with your friends? And then we'd get a yes, no. So then when he would go to an IEP meeting, we would either have the buttons on his talker ahead of time, or we actually would help him create a PowerPoint so he could just hit the space bar and go through it. And that way, you know, it was his words. It's more powerful. Like when he was transitioning and he was at a meeting, he had to come to the IA meetings from as a kid, so that he knew that this was about him and nothing was without him. And even if he wasn't speaking, but somehow he always, you know, like you have to have a higher expectation that they're going to speak. Like you let him there, and if he doesn't speak, but so he ended up saying stuff like, I go Lehigh. That's how he ended up going to Lehigh University. He said that in the meeting. And then I could reflect back on that, like, hey, this is what he wants. He's expressed that. So it wasn't very articulate. He didn't give a whole, you know, but just taking any little way that they could indicate. And also just even, I've talked to other parents too, like, you know, if somebody's in a meeting and they look away, they look down, they look angry, then let's say they're not agreeing with that. If they're clapping and they're happy, like you can even just go by how they express their body. And I think that needs to be part of IEP meetings, but the team has to say this student belongs in this meeting and we have to look to them for our guidance. And also reflecting back on the vision statement. So you are making that at home or somewhere else or in a meeting with people that know that student. So we always read the vision statement at the beginning of the IEP. They were like bored to death of it, but we're having a meeting because we're going back to this. This is our hopes and dreams based on what we know of Sean and what he's given us the information. And if something in this IEP doesn't lead to something in that vision, then we have to change the IEP because the vision is the driving source. So I think you could take it back to its smallest level, but you have to express to the team, this is what we're doing and why, because they don't have the vested interest, long-term vested interest that the family and that individual does for themselves. So you got to take it back. And I think you can do it even with someone who's nonverbal. Just my thoughts.
Kathy, if I can add to that, that is excellent, Colleen. I agree with you 100%. My daughter's actually in this space. And one thing that I found really super helpful that I actually got from Camp Pals when we had to go virtual is we started with these symbols, like these actual symbols that she could raise. You know, one is a thumbs up, one is a thumbs down, one is, and she, because she would feel really uncomfortable. We initially had pictures and said, okay, just, you know, point to the picture. She just didn't feel comfortable with any of that. But these little things we had on like popsicle sticks, she kind of dug that because, you know, I don't know if she was being real accurate initially. I think she was more playing, but it became, you know, a valuable tool to get her to see if she was agreeing, like, is this something that you like? She would do thumbs up, thumbs down, that type of thing, but those symbols first. And then that gradually progressed to the pictures. It was almost like that was the first piece that had to be done. Then it went to the pictures. And then later we got to that point where it's taught, she could say a word, you know, like it, because we even had to get even more granular for her. And then by the time, you know, even like now she's gotten to the point, she won't say a whole sentence, so she won't even initiate. She'll never initiate. But I think something that Colleen said about once the group agrees that this has to be done, their conversation changes, right? Yeah. It's not talking specifically to the family member, it's talking to the person, but it's talking to the person so that they can use whatever tool that they have to use. So if it's a symbol, the questions are going to be based on something they can answer with that symbol. Do you know what I mean? So yes. They have to modify their conversation, right, to make it fully included. Darcy, you had a question?
I was just going to offer the conversation is sparked a few ideas about something that PEAC could do that would be, I think, low cost. would be to host a conversation like this, for families. And another thing we could do is invite Nikki and her son Josh to be part of another conversation where Josh would present. I think, it's quite beautiful how they present together. And because it is a concern. So I was just thinking about, we're trying to think of things that we could do that would be helpful. I thought.
To model it, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that
asked the
would-
question, but I know I'm excited what I was hearing, so I had to respond. And I think, and I've seen this happen, and I'm just, what I'm hearing is certainly from schools, but families who are saying, well, my child can't tell me, they can't tell the team, they don't and it just, from what we really need to do is start showing people these examples of where it's working.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, and get ahead of families falling into this belief that they're not verbal, or they're not, they're not more adept, not as adept as some other people with disabilities, that doesn't, preclude them from being able to share. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited, and it's
I never accept that, like, they can't. They can. Every person can, on some level. They can raise an eyebrow, they could smile, they could shake their head. There is always some way, and people and the family members know that. They know if their child is happy or not. They know how to react, and they can help translate that at a meeting. You know what my kid does, and the parents have to know that they can do that in a meeting.
And Melissa, you had a comment?
Thank you. So Kathy, I mean, I think my journey with my son, Max, which is kind of how I got placed into this family of special education. He has childhood apraxia of speech, and it's very severe. His speech is entirely unintelligible, and he has been in early intervention. He's gotten private therapy. He's gotten intense therapy. He has gotten specialists. He has gotten this all since he was 2. He's 6 years old. We have not seen a lot of movement on his speech. And when he was 2, I started teaching him sign language, because there was no other way to get my son to communicate in a way that was meaningful to him, because we just started getting tantrums, problem behavior. So I think the biggest barrier that we've had with that process, and now he's in school age, and he's even at a private school, the LEA, we got the LEA to place him in a private school. So I think that's a big feat. So that being said, we can't get anyone to use sign language with him.
That's the issue with sign language. It is a very isolated skill, great for those who know. We used to have someone who came in and would work with the whole class to teach the whole class the sign language, along with teaching my child, so that at least the class would know. We did that. We did that through as part of her services.
We have encountered like a lot of resistance with like parent training in our IEP, and even just getting staff training in our IEP. One of the things that was done is the private school started teaching him an AAC device without telling us, because they said they can't get the staff to understand him, but they were resourcing his 10-year-old brother for his signs. Even though I sent them a plethora of everything, offered to come in and show them what he's signing. It is short of like, I will hold your hand in the bathroom stall with you so that you can learn his signs. His friends, my son just made friends this year. He has friends who learned his signs. These are kids' behavioral and other, exceptionalities, but I can't get the staff to buy in. Now, if these kids can learn his signs.
So let me throw this out there. Okay.
And I did have low expectations
who knows
for him.
bilingual education, ASL or any sign language is the same as learning any language. And when you're younger, it's easier to process a new language than it is when you're older. So you can learn a language at any time, don't get me wrong. there's no barrier to learning a language, but the process that goes in the brain is very different for youth than it is for an adult. So there's that barrier of fear for some of the adults to say, uh-oh, this is like a new language, which is also stopping them from learning because it's going to take time to do that. And, you know, we know that our educators are overwhelmed sometimes.
So his AAC devices and the picture systems and the choice boards and tons of ABA, 40 hours a week, has not trumped his ability to communicate with sign language and then have his own prompting and verbal approximations for signs. So he has chosen sign because he would get rid of all the other stuff. He didn't want it. And here's the thing. Everyone told me this is what autism is and this is what apraxia is, and your child is not social and your child won't talk and your child is this and that. And I unfortunately, I listened to everybody early on.
Okay, Colleen, you go ahead. What were you going to say?
And
Well,
what I found
Melissa
out,
to hear.
am I cutting out?
Oh, yeah.
So hold on, Melissa. Let's hear Colleen because we're running out of time.
I just like Sean used universal language, and we put that in the IEP. He's going to sign, he's going to gesture, he's going to do vocal approximation, but we also embedded in the IEP that when he's answering a question that like he has an IEP goal, and some of the ways that his progress is measured is by, and they actually list the ways he's going to either give a sign language, a vocal approximation, pointing, gesturing, use of AAC, and just it's repetitive. But if you want to get that, so that's the way that he can communicate, it has to be embedded throughout the IEP. And then you have to get that IEP, you have to show that he needs this sign language in there under the training. And if they refuse, you're going to have to say you want mediation or go to due process. You can't just let that go. That's the way that he speaks. And that's his only way to access a free and appropriate education, because if you can't have communicate your wants and needs and you're accessing the education, then they're denying you FAPE. You have to call them on that. That gets me mad. Sorry.
I know it.
You had a comment before we close?
Marie.
The other thing is, if they're trying to teach them AAC, they need to know the sign so that they can relate the sign to the AAC. So you're not going to have success. It's got to be all, not just one method. So
very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, everybody goes to the easiest way to communicate first.
Right.
And sign language is always easier than getting at your device. But you have to have that modeled, and there has to be a plan. You don't just give it to them and go, oh, he's not using it.
Same, absolutely, absolutely.
I got to talk to you, Melissa. You got me mad.
Those are issues that we have to, that, you know, that other people have to tackle as well. And that's what we were looking for. So that's very helpful.
I would love to speak with
Marie
everybody.
so I want to say thank you so much for being here. We're just getting ready to sign off here.
Erin and Tim Marie just joined us. Can we say hi to Erin and Tim Marie?
That's what I was just saying. That
oh.
I'm just saying we're just about to sign off. But we wanted to make sure we saw that they just joined. Tim Marie and Erin are Trish Cregan sisters.
Oh,
see you, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Tim Marie. Can you unmute?
hi.
Are you able to unmute there? I see your pretty eyes. They probably heard the passion, and this is exactly what PEAC does. We provide that space, just like Trish always said, the space for everybody.
Yes.
How you doing, Tim Marie?
I'm okay.
Good to see you. Glad you could jump on before we left. That's okay. Better late than never. Better late than never. So it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Yes. No. No. To the place. No. Okay. And
You're doing okay, you said?
so like like
You have a lot to share today, huh? Hey, Tim Marie. Oh, it looks like we got Sean joining us now too.
Oh, hi, Sean.
sorry. I cannot hear. Late.
Well, what I'm gonna send you, I'll send you the information that we with everyone about the memorial fund and the flag.
Go ahead, say it again. Go ahead, real quick. I'll let you go. We'll go back out.
Yes.
How are you?
All right. Look at, wait.
I'm okay.
Don't hit my buttons.
Oh, we have Sean sharing also. Hi, Sean.
No. Tim Marie's talking. Just, you can look. All right, you want to say goodbye quick?
Bye.
Hi, Sean.
See you later.
Hey, Sean.
He's not into it.
And that's called choice. Bye.
If they
Well,
recorded
he
like
said hi and bye. That's good.
a video message for us to like hear, they could send it out to us. That would be really nice.
That's cool. Well, we have to close now. It is 12:37. Before I close, I just want to mention to Chris that I have been in touch with Peter recently so that he can help PEAC work with the self-advocates. And I was just saying to Diane how I love who he has become. Nice young man. And congratulations on your part for all you've done with him, because I am so proud of him, of who he has become. And he's really going to help us a great deal. So, I just wanted you to know that.
I so appreciate that. We are really proud of him. And it was because of PEAC that he has embraced his identity as an individual with a disability And the fact that he's been able to continue to work with PEAC and give back and advocate, we're thrilled. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I had a question for Chris. What library does he work at?
So Peter works at a supports coordination organization.
Okay.
He works in Center City at Quality Progressions. He works full time, and nowadays he's in the office 3 days a week, and he works home from 2. He was able to continue his work through the pandemic, which was thrilling considering both his dad and I lost our jobs. You know, he, at one point they went down to 1 day a week. And when you are an individual with a disability who doesn't have a really large social circle because you moved out right before the pandemic and you are only working 1 day a week and hanging out with your family, you become quite isolated. So this is something that I think lots of people went through. I think we're still coming out of it. And again, thrilled that Peter can reconnect with PEAC and the Self-Advocate Network and start getting back to the work that's so important.
Thank you so much. All right, to end today, I want to thank everyone for being here. This has been a wonderful experience for me, and I thank you for that. Yes, and to Marie, you had something else to share? No? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I knew I had something I just wanted to remind anybody who has school-age children that the PDE conference, parent scholarships, I think the deadline is early February. I don't have it in front of me, but if you are a parent of a child 21 and younger in school services, make sure you register for the PDE conference, which you would get a scholarship. You don't have to pay for attendance, hotel room, etc. But we all get this great information at the same time, and we get to be with other families from across the state. So I hope you'll try to register and attend, because it's just a really great place to learn and to be with other families as well.
Thank you. And it is hybrid, so that's also, it's nice being on site.
Yes, that's true.
And yes, it would be good to see you, Linda. We did just talk about that.
Okay, now can I have a motion to adjourn? Mary? As seconded?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. I am going to adjourn at 12:41.
Thank you, everybody. Tim Marie, make sure you tell Erin I said hi.